Well, welcome. Thank you for coming back, and it's always a pleasure to have you on. It's always
Oh
good
my
to see.
goodness. I am always thrilled. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's good to see you're still around and kicking. And despite your background, if just as a summary for people that don't know, you were diagnosed with a fairly aggressive cancer several years ago, and have defied the odds and have not only kept it, I guess, in remission. Well, you can clarify it, but remission and continue to improve despite that. So, and then you periodically update with different blog posts and what you're doing, some of the new things you're trying. So tell us, just to give us a quick overview for people who don't remember, and then kind of tell us what you've been up to.
Sure, of course. September 2018, I was diagnosed with IgA kappa light chain multiple myeloma with severe lytic lesions throughout my entire skeleton. So I was susceptible to all kinds of pathological fractures. When I was diagnosed, I was also given a prognosis of 3 to 6 months to live if I didn't do chemotherapy. I rejected chemotherapy for a variety of reasons. Number one, this is an incurable disease. Number two, it would destroy my immune system, and that's the only thing that I wanted to make more robust. And it would significantly decrease the quality of my life. I had no interest in longevity at that point. I only wanted a quality of life. So I created a series of unconventional cancer protocols, which I have tweaked significantly over almost 3 years now. And I'm doing very well. Now, I've had severe pathological fractures. And just to give you an idea of what I had to go through, in August of 2019, I am brushing my teeth, and I'm doing well, but I'm brushing my teeth in my bathroom, and flossing, and I go to throw the dental floss away. So I twist my body to the left. Just imagine 90 degrees to the left to throw my dental floss in a trash can. At that instant, my right femur snaps in half, and I crash to the floor. When I crash to the floor, I break 2 ribs, and I split my right humerus in half. Now, I know things are not right. Number one, I'm writhing in pain. I'm screaming. My wife is in the other room. But I can see my arm and my leg in angles that you could never bend them. So I know I'm broken on my right side. And I've lived more than my prognosis, which was 3 to 6 months. It's now been a year. So I'm figuring, this is really going through my head very rapidly, but I'm figuring it's over. And the quality of my life is over. Certainly, I couldn't get any better. And I was ready to die, and I wanted to die. So when I finally got to the emergency room, they fixed my right femur because it was ready to perforate the femoral artery. I would have bled to death. So they fixed the right femur. They don't do anything with the humerus. And I reject everything. And they send me to hospice, a hospice hospital in Charleston, South Carolina, to literally die. Interestingly, there's a hurricane coming through Charleston 2 or 3 weeks later called Hurricane Dorian. It's moving at 1 mile an hour, 187 mile an hour winds. The hospital is ordered to evacuate. They know where to put me. They send me to my home. My wife scrambles to get a hospital bed. She's a nurse. And I'm still in hospice, catheterized, highly drugged, very despondent, certainly depressed, and I'm still ready to die. But my wife gives me some tough love. And she says, look, you have never been a victim. You're a survivor. Get back on your cancer protocols. Let's get a physical therapist in and see what we can do. And amazingly, I start to recover. I revoke hospice. And in May of 2020, I get a new PET scan, which is a big X-ray CT scan. They inject radioactive glucose to see where the cancer cells are. And this is my 3rd PET scan, and there's no active cancer cells in my body. Now, first of all, you got to remember, a PET scan only looks for moderate to severe levels of cancer. So I am not in remission. I feel fantastic. I am doing extremely well. And that's my story. Now, I started carnivore January 1st, 2020. And previously I was on a Paleolithic autoimmune diet, but then I went to carnivore, very, very strict carnivore for, 6 to 8 months, and then slowly integrated some plants that have no phytates, oxalates, or lectins. Maybe 10% of my plate of food would be plants at any given time, but basically nose to tail carnivore and basically red meat. Absolutely amazing. So that's part of my unconventional cancer protocol, the carnivore diet.
Yeah, and I'm sure, just because I'm sure the question will be asked by somebody, you know, the 10% plant material that does not contain those problematic compounds for you. What do those things look like?
Sure, of course. Generally, they're fruits, basically avocados, maybe some blueberries, definitely raw honey. That's kind of what I eat when I'm not eating, or in combination of my carnivore diet.
Yeah, that's an interesting topic, and I guess we should jump in there, because I know we had Kevin Stock on, who's also a dentist, and
Yes.
we had the discussion, and he's not a particular fan of sugars of any type, including in the form of honey. He feels that is problematic for the teeth. You said you've got like a different perspective.
Well, I respectfully disagree with him about honey, and I will tell you why. Now, I'm talking about the raw honey that you get from a beehive, not the honey that looks like it's in a teddy bear plastic squeeze bottle that's been processed and you get it at other grocery stores. So this is raw, unfiltered honey.
Yeah, just to interject. I was just going to interject. A lot of the honey is contaminated with brown rice syrup, and it's not even actually honey. I mean, a lot of that stuff that you see, that's been my understanding.
That's interesting. I never even touched that stuff, yeah, but sure. I didn't even know what it's contaminated with. Yeah, interesting. So there are quite a number of peer-reviewed studies that show raw honey is not only medicinally healing. You can use raw honey as a toothpaste. There are over 200 biologically active chemicals in raw honey. The studies that I have seen talking about raw honey and the decrease in gum disease and tooth decay by using it, one double-blind study was done on a group of kids that had orthodontic bands and wires. And of course, these kids don't clean their mouth well anyhow. So the study was trying to figure out what they could do to help them in a more natural way. So they used honey. And what honey does, it brings the pH level slightly down below 5.5, but immediately rises. And all of the other chemicals literally decrease strep mutans, which is a major bacterium that causes tooth decay, although there are many others. And P. gingivalis, which is a bacterium that is a very severe bacterium that causes periodontal disease, along with others. Interestingly, those counts of species go down when you do honey. So I disagree with honey. Now, I'm not saying to drink or eat a cup of honey a day. I mean, we're talking about lots and lots of carbs, but raw honey is very healthy. And by the way, it's an animal product.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, just because you talk about the mechanism by which honey may protect, by changing the bacterial flora in the mouth in a favorable way, I'm assuming. How does that contrast? Well, let's just talk about regular toothpaste. I mean, there's other, there's fluoridated toothpastes. There's other toothpastes with, honestly, I don't even know what the active ingredients are in many of them, like the Crest and the whatever. And then there's different types. I mean, just from a hierarchy of things, if you had to brush your teeth, what would you use? I mean, outside of honey.
Here's what I do. Number one, dental plaque is healthy until it's not. So there is a misnomer that you need to remove dental plaque if you have a healthy gut microbiome And if you're eating nutritious food, let's be honest, a carnivore diet. If you're eating a carnivore diet and you have a healthy gut microbiome, there are two big ifs here, then dental plaque will be healthy. And here's the reason why. The diet of carnivore, and if you let me share the screen later, I have some interesting mandibles of the oldest Homo sapiens ever recorded, 300,000 years old, that was discovered a couple of years ago. And I want to show you his teeth and his jawbone. But basically, if you have a healthy gut microbiome, you have a healthy epithelial barrier, the immune system is not compromised, and there's no chronic systemic inflammation that affects the balance of bacteria in the mouth. If the balance of bacteria in the mouth is normal, and you have about 200 to 300 or so species of different bacteria in dental plaque, that dental plaque actually serves a significant purpose biologically. Now think about this. There is no structure in the human body that is a hard structure that pierces the skin, the gum tissue, and embeds itself in sterile bone. Now, if there was nothing to protect that area, the bacteria in the mouth would slide down this slippery slope of the tooth like a sliding board, would go into the sterile bone, create necrosis in the bone, our jaws would disappear, and we would die. Obviously, that doesn't happen. There are a variety of reasons why it doesn't happen. One reason is that there are a variety of immunological cellular structures under the gum tissue to gobble up any invading bacteria. But there is a superficial structure that the body has created, which is a natural biofilm, which is called dental plaque. So the dental plaque that surrounds the tooth, made up of maybe 200 or 300 species of bacteria, do primarily three important things. They have some chemical buffers inside of this dental plaque that prevents the pH, the acid level, from going below 5.5. Anything below 5.5 for an extended period of time causes tooth decay. In addition to that, the garden of bacteria that's dental plaque produce hydrogen peroxide. That hydrogen peroxide in that particular environment will kill other potentially invading pathogenic bacteria that want to get into the gum tooth margin and slide down the gum, the tooth. So it actually kills potentially invading bacteria to the gum tooth surface. And in addition, it's acting like a gatekeeper to allow minerals from the saliva to get through it into the root surface to remineralize the tooth root surface 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So dental plaque is very healthy. Now, if you have an unhealthy gut microbiome, compromised immune system, leaky gut, and then you'll develop metabolic endotoxemia, or LPS, lipopolysaccharides, which are the cell walls of gram-negative bacteria pouring into the bloodstream. You'll get systemic inflammation, chronic and acute, affects the mouth, changes the bacterial milieu in the mouth, and then the potentially pathogenic bacteria that are under control normally start to overgrow, and then you get gum disease, tooth decay, and a host of other problems that then get into the blood system, the lymph, travel the nerve myelin sheaths, and get throughout the entire body and cause all kinds of other chronic diseases. So dental plaque is healthy. Now let's get back to your question. So your question was, what do you do to brush your teeth? Well, I brush my teeth twice a day. I'm not saying I have to. I don't think I have to, by the way. But I brush my teeth twice a day. But I brush it to remove any superficial plaque, but I'm not removing the baseline of the dental plaque under the heavier plaque that is called the pellicle, that is doing all these beneficial things. So I will use a toothbrush. I like an electric toothbrush, and you can use just salt water. You could dip the toothbrush in some coconut oil and a little bit of baking soda. Baking soda is good because It will neutralize any excess acid you may have in your mouth based on what you might be eating. And it also is a very mild abrasive. It won't harm the gum tissue, but it's a mild abrasive that removes some superficial stain on the enamel. So you can do that. Now, if you want a toothpaste, most of the toothpaste that are out there have lots of harmful chemicals. There is a toothpaste called Revitin, Revitin. It's available on Amazon. It's available at revitin.com. But this toothpaste has nothing harmful in it and actually tastes good. You can even eat it and it won't harm the microbiome if you want something to foam to clean your mouth, but you don't need a toothpaste. What's very interesting is that a lot of holistic toothpaste, and this is controversial, so you're going to get a lot of phone calls. They don't know my phone number, but they probably know yours. There are a lot of toothpaste that are holistic, and they're not going to use fluoride, which is a harmful element anyhow. So they're going to use different chemicals. One that is being used today is hydroxyapatite. Now, hydroxyapatite is the structure of the enamel of the tooth, and they're using nanoparticles of hydroxyapatite. All the research that is done shows that it can harden the root tooth surface and prevent decay. And it sounds like the perfect solution to a fluoride-based toothpaste. But there is other research that has nothing to do with these medical benefits that show nanoparticles and nanohydroxyapatite particles are cytotoxic. So the nanoparticle actually allows the hydroxyapatite to get into areas of the cell that it never would get into. It goes through the cytoplasm and probably damages the nuclear membrane and can affect the DNA of cells throughout the body. That scares me. I don't like anything that has nanoparticles for that reason. And there are, I would say, at least 20 good peer-reviewed articles that I've seen in the last 2 years that talk about nanoparticles and medicine and the potential cytotoxicity of nanoparticle medicaments. So you don't need toothpaste, but if you want toothpaste, use Revitin.
All right, I'm sure everybody's Googling Revitin right now. Hey, there was a question in here, and there was just a question on terminology. The difference between tartar and plaque, is there qualitatively or quantitatively a difference?
Yeah.
Or what is the difference between the two? And what's
dental plaque is the soft bacteria. And then when minerals, calcium and a variety of other minerals affect the dental plaque, where the saliva flows, like on the inside of the lower front teeth, the saliva flows from the submandibular glands to that back side of the lower anterior teeth. The minerals at that time, and maybe whatever the pH is, will cause the dental plaque to calcify, and it becomes harder material, and that is tartar, or the more medical term would be calculus. So it's calcified dental plaque, calcified bacteria.
okay? So it's just been there longer and had a chance to be calcified.
Correct.
Yeah, and I realize you want to talk about the cancer. We always, whenever we've had a few dentists.
No, I'll talk about anything you want.
And there's a lot of people that always have dental questions with this, so it's always kind of interesting because I don't have much expertise in dentistry. Obviously, I mean, I know the basic, probably a little more than the average person, but not much. There is I mean, talk to me about the problem. I mean, I see so many older adults, and I mean, this is even when I call older adults, even people in their 40s and 50s. They don't have, their teeth are falling out. I mean, a lot of them are, they're already got, they've got implants or partial dentures or whatever. What's going on with that? And is that the normal set? Let's talk about your human skull. I mean, your human jaw, because I would assume was that one discovered in Morocco or something like that? I think the 300,000 year.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's when.
First of all, you said older people like 50 or 60 years old. Give me a break. I'm 74, right? What do you now? Am I prehistoric or what?
Well, no, I'm just saying that it's a shame that we're seeing people that relatively young with it are losing their teeth.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It is all related to our lifestyle and environment and our diet and a very unhealthy gut microbiome. There is a study that showed, I think it was published in 2012-ish, that showed, it studied college students and showed that 94% of this population they studied had some form of gingivitis or inflammation or bleeding in the gum tissue. That is amazing. Talk about pandemic. 94% had some form of inflammation or bleeding. The gum tissue should never bleed ever, unless you cut it with something. But if you brush it or floss it, it should never, ever bleed unless you cut it. And that's a sign of infection. And that is a sign of dysbiosis in the gut. If you want, let me show you some skulls, because it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, let's take a peek. Yeah, you should be able to share your screen. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I? Okay. So let me show you a few things. I'm going to show you, first of all, what do you see? I don't know. Can you?
Well, I mean, that's not. Well, I mean, that's it's obviously
no, I don't know what you're seeing. Are you seeing a mandible right now?
I'm seeing a mandible. Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So this is a mandible of this jaw, 300,000 dated 300,000 years ago.
Wow.
It is estimated as the oldest Homo Sapien, which is our relative, ever found. There are 32 teeth in the mouth. This is the lower jaw, has 16 teeth. All 16 teeth are present. And the red arrows show the third molars. So the third molars erupt somewhere between the ages of 17 to 21. And if you look at the surfaces of the teeth, and it's very difficult for you to see this, but if you look at the surfaces of the teeth, they're very, very worn down. I would say this man or woman, I don't know what sex it would be. Let's say, let's call him Rick. I would say Rick has been alive for at least 25 years, because to get this amount of wear on his teeth, he would have been chewing hard foods for a very long time. So I'm going to suggest that that's his age or older. Now, I have another picture. I'm going to take this off.
So,
and I'm showing you this. Can you see this?
Before you leave this picture, that is the actual visual skull. That's the actual picture. That's like an actual live
That
photo.
is the jaw, photographed by the archaeologist.
I mean, that looks pristine. I mean, I'm just amazed. I mean,
at
least
pristine.
From what I've
Look
seen.
At this.
Yeah, that's amazing.
This is the same jaw from the side, and the yellow arrows shows the alveolar bone, the jaw bone, right where it should be at the base of the enamel of the tooth. You can't see any roots because the roots go into the bone.
I can't see the new view. I can't see the side view. You're still in the original straight up view. So I don't know if maybe you stopped sharing. You didn't.
Okay, so I guess I have to stop sharing and then start sharing again.
Maybe, I'm not sure. I usually see just go from one to the next. There we go.
You see yellow?
We can see it. Yeah, we can see it now.
Okay, I'll have to stop sharing and go back next time. So this picture, the yellow arrows show the alveolar bone. That's the jawbone, the crest of the jawbone, where it's surrounding all of the roots of the teeth, just below the enamel of the teeth. So this is the enamel of the tooth. These are the teeth. And you can see these very sharp edges on the teeth. These are all the wear patterns of the teeth. So this guy was really chewing lots of hard stuff. And so the bone, though, is very normal. Perfectly normal. There's no bone damage here. This guy has very healthy jawbone. But what's really interesting, I'm going to take this picture off, and I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to share another picture. This picture, these blue arrows, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, the junk between the teeth is Tartar, calculus, as far as I can see. So this guy had lots of dental plaque, no bone loss, no tooth decay, just a lot of teeth wear. He's at least 25 years old or older, and lots of dental plaque. Well, how come he has all of this dental plaque and no gum disease or tooth decay? Because the dental plaque is healthy. It serves a purpose. This series of pictures that I just showed you is one proof to me that we are not designed to have periodontal disease or tooth decay. And you know, this guy didn't have a dental cave to go to every 6 months to get fluoride on his teeth or to have a hygienist clean his teeth. So, and he didn't have a toothbrush or toothpaste or dental floss. So he wasn't really cleaning his mouth as civilized society would suggest you do, but he has no dental disease. I think that's amazing.
Well, yeah, I mean, you think about, I don't know when dentistry was invented. I'm sure you have an idea when they started doing the rudimentary dentry, and probably several thousand years ago, you know, probably in response to people having dental abscesses and stuff from a crappy agricultural diet, I suspect is what led to that, would be my guess, but I don't know. Maybe you can comment on that.
Yes. So if you were to look at other archaeological remnants of human skulls, if you look at, we have quite a number of jaw remains from 20,000 to 10,000 years ago. It looks similar to these pictures that I showed you, obviously more evolved jaws, but similar. Very, very little gum disease or alveolar bone loss, very, very little tooth decay from 20,000 to 10,000 years ago. Once we look at jaws that were found from 10,000 years ago to, let's say, 150 years ago, and that's a long span, you can see the progressive damage to the jaw, and that's related to farming and eating refined foods. And of course, by 150 years ago, there was severe tooth decay and severe bone loss related to the type diet, and that type of diet changed the gut microbiome, and then all of this destruction started to occur in the mouth. So I would say that within, certainly within 1,000, 2,000 years ago, there were some very significant signs of dental disease that was getting progressively worse.
Yeah, and you know, I think the mouth is a pretty good window to what's going on in the rest of the body. I think, you know, if we have someone with poor dentition, we know there's, you know, as you know, there's associated cardiovascular disease, and probably, well, diabetics have worse teeth, and so on and so forth. And so,
yeah, absolutely. And here's the reason why. So I wrote an article called Iatrogenic or shoddy dentistry and splinters in the mouth. It's almost like, you know, if you had a splinter in your finger, no matter how healthy you are, the healthiest person in the world with nothing toxic in your environment, but you have a splinter in your finger, you're going to get infection, at least in that area, and it's going to affect your immune system. But if you take the splinter out, all of a sudden the skin heals. But if you were stupid and took that splinter and stabbed it into the original puncture wound once a week, that puncture wound never will heal. And so what's happening is that we're dealing with an unhealthy diet that's affecting the gut microbiome. We're constantly irritating the gut microbiome. We're constantly creating a leaky gut, and all of the factors that are causing dysfunction in the immune system change the bacteria in the mouth. Now, once the bacteria in the mouth get pathogenic, that pathogenic bacteria that's causing tooth decay and or gum disease, especially gum disease, can get into the blood system easily from under the gum. The capillaries that are under the gum directly feed the blood system, so they get there. In addition to that, there are some there's lymph tissue where the inflammatory cytokines and bacterial remnants can get into the lymph, eventually dumped into the bloodstream. And what's really interesting are there nerve channels all throughout the bone that go everywhere in the body. And there is a sheath that covers the nerves, just like a plastic coating on an electric wire. And that sheath is slippery, and the bacteria and cytokines can literally get on that sheath and travel the entire canal. I believe that the dental meridians, if you've heard of them or not, the dental meridians, kind of an Eastern philosophy of how things progress through the body. The dental meridians are actually the nerve canals where the bacteria and inflammatory chemicals can literally go from the mouth to other organ systems. And this is the reason why people that have unhealthy mouths have other chronic diseases, because it gets into the circulatory system and through the nerves. But in addition, they have a chronic inflammatory result from gut dysbiosis. So you have two niduses of infection that are working against our society right now. We have an unhealthy gut that must be treated, that almost no one understands in dentistry. And then you have dental disease that can get into the bloodstream. And those that are treating dental problems, like dentists, have no idea what's going on in the gut. So they treat the mouth and not the gut. And then the functional medicine people treat the gut and not the mouth, because they don't understand the mouth. And they're never solving the problem because we have two niduses of infection.
Let me, just because we get this sort of question a lot. And when I remember as a kid, maybe even later than that, talk about, drinking milk for strong teeth and healthy bones, or the other way, strong bones and healthy teeth. I can't remember what the phrase was. There's people asking about raw milk, and you mentioned mineralization and demineralization of the teeth, which is a constant flux thing going on. Is there any, in your view, any truth to the fact that milk is beneficial to the teeth, particularly raw milk, or what are your thoughts on dairy in general?
So I do not believe, from everything I study, that dairy is necessary for our evolution, our growth, other than when we were a child and we're drinking mother's milk. Now, you get calcium from a variety of sources, as you know, and I do not have a problem with raw milk. Some people obviously do because of lactose, but I do not have a problem with people drinking raw milk. In my situation, raw milk, especially the casein, could be a factor in gut dysbiosis. And when you have cancer, there are certain things that you must control, and the gut microbiome is critical, and the epithelial barrier is critical. The Paleomedicina Clinic in Budapest, Hungary, which is a phenomenal facility which treats serious chronic disease and a variety of cancers, uses a strict they call it a Paleolithic ketogenic diet, with no dairy, no supplements, and no prescription drugs. And they have some very compelling case reports that they report in various journals. They do say, one of their reports was a glioblastoma patient that was quite phenomenal, and they reported his success 38 months after a ketogenic diet. And he wasn't in remission, but he had no symptoms or disabilities because of this glioblastoma, because of the ketogenic diet. But basically, they said in the paper that the diet was very important, but what's most important was to have an intact epithelial barrier in the gut. And the only way to do that is not have anything that's irritating to the gut. Therefore, plants, as you know, are very irritating to the gut epithelial barrier, especially plants that have oxalates and phytates and lectins. And casein kind of mimics gluten, and it can confuse the immune system, and it can also create some epithelial dysfunction, barrier dysfunction. So I do not recommend milk for anyone that has serious chronic disease or cancer, but I have no problem with a person that is drinking raw milk that doesn't have those problems.
Yeah, and this is another question. This is another dental related question that often comes up. And I know you have personal experience and thoughts on why you may have developed cancer regarding your dental practice, you're early on, what you're exposed to. But the question is about mercury fillings. I mean, many of us have mercury amalgam fillings that were put in 30 years ago. What do you do? If you got a small one, do you leave it alone? Do you dig it out? Kevin Stock said, it may be more trouble than it's worth, to take it out. But what are your thoughts on those folks that still have mercury fillings in their mouth?
So if I were to suggest to a patient that they remove all their mercury fillings, and their mercury fillings, dental amalgams, do not have decay around them, they're not breaking down visually. On an x-ray, there is no sign that it is damaged. And I suggest that they remove all of their fillings. They could sue me, and I probably would lose my dental license. That's one sad fact. Now, what is the reality of it? All the research that I see, and the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology on their website has many peer-reviewed articles about this, that the free mercury in the dental amalgam literally evaporates from the tooth 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So that free mercury is very toxic, and it gets into the system. And mercury is a neurotoxin, among other things. And of course, you're not going to drink a glass of water that has lead in it. Why would you eat something or have something in your mouth that is pouring out potentially toxic heavy metals, which is mercury, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because it accumulates? So in my opinion, you should not have any dental or mercury in your body. So if you have fillings, they can be removed biologically very easily. When I say easily, it's not a complicated process for a dentist that's trained to do it, but there is a process, there is a protocol. If you went to a dentist who is a conventional dentist and you said, I really want to get healthier, take these 2 or 3 mercury fillings out of my mouth, and they drill them out and they put other composite fillings in, and they haven't protected you in any way. They don't use high-speed suction machines and don't use what's called a rubber dam to prevent any of this mercury from you swallowing it or getting under the mucosal or getting into the mucosal tissue under your tongue. They're not protecting you and themselves. That mercury vaporizes in the operatory of the dentist, and you're swallowing it, and you're getting a low dose, very high dose of this mercury vapor, and it's very toxic. You would be definitely in worse shape if you were to have those mercury fillings removed that way. But there are very safe ways to do that. Most biological dentists, especially the ones that are have been trained by the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology and the International Academy of Biological Dentistry and Medicine, those two organizations have courses, programs, people that have to get certified to remove dental fillings correctly. So if I had mercury fillings in my mouth, which I don't, I would go to a biologically oriented dentist that can prove to me that he has been certified or taken specific courses to remove this mercury correctly, and I would absolutely have them removed. I would not have mercury in my mouth.
Okay, well, there's that. There's the answer to that. There's a question around. We mentioned kind of because you showed the skull of the the 300,000-year-old early Homo sapien, and he's got 32 teeth, including what we consider 4 wisdom teeth in there. I've got 28. I never had wisdom teeth came in. I don't even know. I think maybe in my mandible there might have been room for some. They never erupted. They never came in. Some people say they've come in, some they haven't. What is the deal on why do some people get wisdom teeth? Does everybody have them and sometimes they just don't erupt, or do some people not even have them on x-ray?
Great question. For the majority of people, they do have those 32 teeth. Some people even have extra teeth called supernumerary teeth. But for the most part, all humans have 32 teeth. Now, they may not all come into your mouth because they are impacted in the bone and they don't have enough room. The reason they don't have enough room has a lot to do with the way babies grow. If a child does not breastfeed, then the upper jaw doesn't develop naturally. Interestingly, the upper jaw develops because the pressure of the breast on the roof of the mouth when they're sucking milk pushes on the alveolar process to expand the upper jaw. And the lower jaw accommodates in size to the lower jaw accommodates in size to the upper jaw. And then when the teeth start to erupt, there is enough jaw space for the teeth to erupt. The other reason is that most children go, when they're not breastfeeding, they go immediately to soft food. So the soft food, and they eat soft food for quite a long time. So the soft food doesn't stimulate the jaw bone to grow. So when the masseters are chomping down on food, if it's harder food that they have to bite on, the masseters put strain on the bone, and the bone literally grows in strength and size. So most people that have impacted wisdom teeth probably did not breastfeed for a long enough time, or didn't breastfeed at all. And they were literally on soft baby food for years, and it didn't allow the upper jaw or the lower jaw the strength to grow and accommodate in size for all 32 teeth. Now, of course, there are other genetic factors. Maybe the jaw is genetically smaller, but for the most part, the reasons are the two that I just mentioned: not breastfeeding and not eating hard food early.
Yeah, and I think if I recall correctly, I have to go yell at my mom about this, my 78-year-old mother, that, I don't think I breastfed very much at all, or if at all, I think I was a formula baby. So that's probably why I have, a relatively smaller maxilla. But hey, let me go back to the, that picture you showed of the, or we could just talk about the picture you showed of the old Homo sapien, a 300,000-year-old sapien. And you said, we suspect he's 25 years of age. There's really no accurate way to really date these people beyond adulthood. I think it's something, I mean, there's ways, but I think it's, I think one time we conflate, I've seen some problems with the way they date some of these old fossils, is they kind of assume some of the things that we see with modern skeletons and skulls are the same, because the environment was very different 100,000, 200, 300,000 years ago. But you mentioned dental wear. What's wearing those teeth out? I mean, is he chewing on bones? Is meat?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure he's
wear?
chewing on bones. There was a paper that was published March of 2021, just a few months ago, by Dr. Micah Ben-Dur. Micah Ben-Dur is a anthropologist in Israel. He has two other co-authors.
Yeah, Mickey Ben-Dur. Mickey. Yeah, we know Mickey. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay, so
yeah, I know Mickey.
that we basically have been, for the most part, eating large animals with very, very few plants. And those large animals have a lot of bones. And we're chewing on bones. We're eating the meat from bones. We're eating the cartilage, which is very tough. So those things are going to cause wear. They also were eating bark probably, or very hard tubers. But, and there was grit and sand in the food. They didn't wash their foods and sterilize them like we do today. So all of this probably contributed to the severe wear of the teeth, but also longevity. I'm not sure. This guy could be in his 30s or older. I'm just guessing, and I'm only guessing because of the wear pattern, and all 16 teeth of the lower jaw are there. I know he's got to be older than 21, 25 years old. I can't see any way that he could have all 16 teeth and the wear patterns and be 12 years old. It's not possible.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, well, you get. I mean, once we look at growth patterns from childhood to adulthood, like I said, as an orthopedic surgeon, I can look at an X-ray of a bone and of a child and kind of tell you within a year how old he is. But once I get to
Hmm.
somebody past 30, I mean, it could be 30, it could be 60, and you don't really
Right.
know. And I just wonder, when they're doing these fossils, and also regarding the wear patterns in teeth and bones. I mean, I think people wear out their bones a lot earlier now due to their diet. I think we have this biological wear that's going on and that we didn't have before. Let me ask you about you had. Oh, one of the things I often am confronted with, and I kind of think is laughable, but we have people that are advocating for plant-based diets, and one of their things is, humans are not designed to eat meat. And my counter to that is, it works pretty well for me. I can eat a steak off the bone just fine. But what do you
So
say
I
when
don't
people
get
say,
that.
we can't eat meat because our teeth are not designed for that? I just find it laughable. But I'd like to hear your perspective as a
I
dentist.
think it's laughable. Absolutely. It's designed to eat meat. I eat meat, you eat meat, I chomp down. Come on. We don't have to have sharp canines like a Bengal tiger has, but we eat meat. I, it's the motion of the jaw. We're not eating side to side, we're eating up and down. We're crushing food. So I don't believe that. And of course, the digestive system is somewhat designed to be a meat eater. We have, as Homo sapiens, we have an extremely acidic stomach with a pH of around 1.2 to 1.5. And it's there to destroy microbes that are rotting meat or other things that we're trying to eat. Other mammals, primates, don't have that acidity, and they're more herbivores than we are. We're more carnivore. We have a very, very large or long small intestine, so that's where most meat products are digested. We have a very short colon because that's where plant foods are digested. We don't do digesting. We don't do well digesting plants. We hardly have a cecum, where other primates that are herbivores do have a large cecum. So our design, our genetic design, is more leaning towards carnivore than to omnivore to herbivore. I don't know why they say what they say. And then with the nitrogen testing that Mickey has discussed in his paper, we can show that the protein that was being ingested in these past 2.5 million years were basically proteins from animals, not plants.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. In fact, I mean, that's pretty obvious to me. But hey, let me ask you, just regarding back to your personal, you've talked about diet as a strategy to help with the cancer that you have. What are the other things you employ? Are you currently employing other
Sure. And
things,
I would be
supplements
more than
or
happy to share
lifestyle?
it with your
Sure.
entire community. I can send it to you at my unconventional cancer protocols. I do update them regularly. But
Okay.
basically, diet is number one, but the gut microbiome is a close number one, number two. So the gut microbiome, I do quite a bit to improve my gut microbiome. As a matter of fact, I had my gut microbiome tested in June 2020, and I have an alpha diversity in the 98th percentile. That's amazing. So alpha diversity means that you have many, many, many species of different bacteria and many numbers or quantity of those species. All of the primal societies today that are basically healthy, like the Hadza and quite a number of others, where their microbiomes have been tested, they have very high alpha diversity. They have many, many species of many, many different bacteria. And that helps to crowd out potentially pathogenic bacteria and microbes, as well as to prevent chronic disease and even cancer. Theoretically, because of what I have, my multiple myeloma, I should have a very poor alpha diversity. On the other hand, I don't. The reason is I use spore-based probiotics to enhance the quantity, quality, and numbers of my commensal bacteria. Now, spore-based probiotics are not soil-based probiotics. They're in the soil, but they're dormant. They've been there for millions and millions of years. We've always eaten them as primal societies in our foods. We've always ingested them. And because of the spore, the natural spore covering of the Bacillus bacterium, they are resistant to the stomach acid. They make their own chemical metabolites once they get into the intestines. They grow, they create metabolites, and they enhance the commensal bacteria that exists in the gut microbiome. And they last for a period of a week or 2 weeks, and then they go away. And that's why you have to keep replacing them, just like our primal ancestors did when they were eating daily spores. But if you were to eat or take normal probiotics, the lactobacillus species, the bifidobacteria species, they do produce quite a number of very beneficial metabolites that are resistant to the stomach acid. They get into your intestines and they do a good job. But what they don't do is that the lactobacillus and the bifidobacteria species are dead. They're killed in the stomach acid. So therefore, they don't regenerate. And some of the studies prove that taking these probiotics don't enhance your gut microbiome. Well, they can't because they can't grow. But the metabolites do encourage the microbiome in the gut to become healthier. What also is very interesting, and I just want to point this out, up to maybe 2 years ago, it was always thought we needed prebiotics. We needed fiber, lots of fiber, to feed all this gut microbiome that actually can make short-chain fatty acids that are critical for the gut. Well, it turns out that there was a study that was done a year or two ago that showed that if you're on an animal-based diet, you have a certain type of gut microbiome. But if you switch it to a plant-based diet, within 24 hours, that gut microbiome changes. And then if you switch back to an animal-based diet within 24 hours, that gut microbiome changes. And actually, the gut microbiome on a carnivore diet can ferment amino acids to create the same short-chain fatty acids. So the fiber is not critical. And that's a very important statement.
Yeah, I have seen, somebody sent me a report of they looked at fecal short chain fatty acids, as a test for that, and they showed high levels of butyrate, high levels of propionate, acetate, all the short chain fatty acids. They were on a fully carnivorous diet, so
absolutely,
it's not surprising at all. And we know things like methylbutyrate and some of the other ones I just mentioned are parts of amino acid fermentation for sure. The thought of this diversity. I mean, I think I've seen multiple reports where they've looked at, Inuit diets where they're largely animal-based, again, showing excellent alpha diversity. So it's not unusual at all. And so I'm not sure, the push for fiber that we have. I think there's a lot of perhaps financial interest in driving that.
And what's interesting also is all the studies that are looking at the microbiome, and Sean, you'll understand what I'm saying here. All the studies that are looking at the microbiome and saying these are keystone bacteria in the microbiome, you have to have them. In order to get them, you need to eat these fibers. They're looking at basically plant-based humans to get that microbiome. There is a company that I've been in touch with, and it's one of the largest. They have one of the largest databases of the microbiome in humans, and they do whole genome sequencing, and they are prepared to do new studies of only people that are carnivore to determine what the keystone bacteria might be in a carnivore diet. That's never been done before. That would be game changing, I think.
Yeah, and just for transparent, I know we sort of set up a talk about that, and hopefully some of the people that are doing this will be willing to participate and just share their data. I think that is something.
Well, the company is very well known. It's called Cosmos ID. You can look it up on the internet. It's one of the premier and probably one of the only whole genome sequencing companies. They do quite a bit of work for the FDA and many organizations around the world. And I don't know how many individuals they would need to start a database of carnivore microbiomes. But if we knew that, and we were trying to get a healthier gut microbiome, we don't want our microbiome compared to vegans because it's totally different. We want a microbiome, our microbiome. I want to see my alpha diversity compared to other healthy carnivores throughout the world. That would be quite an interesting study, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's the important caveat. You put the word healthy carnivores in there because
I think absolutely.
I think by definition, a lot of people will just say carnivore was obviously an unhealthy diet, so therefore any microbiome is obviously unhealthy, which I think is a backwards way to do that. I think we have people that are healthy, clearly they're healthy, that are doing this. Al, I've got to unfortunately run. It's 10 o'clock. We've gone through an hour. I've got another meeting to attend, but thank you so much for doing this. It's always a pleasure.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. It's always a pleasure.
Let us know where folks can go to find out more. You just give us
my website, drdanenberg.com, DRDANENBERG.com. You can sign up for my weekly free newsletter. It always talks about the new blogs that I'm posting every Monday. I do individual consultations. I do 12-week coaching programs. It's all on the website. You can take a look, and all of those blogs, which are pretty well cited with peer-reviewed literature, you can download at your leisure. There's quite a bit of information out there.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll see everybody tomorrow, guys. Take care. Have a great day. I'll have a good day yourself. Take care now.
Thanks again.
The next one. Okay, bye-bye, guys.